I want to bring in Republican Congressman William Thornberry of Texas. He's the vice chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, and he was in Afghanistan very, very recently, just over the Memorial Day holiday, and meeting with troops and villagers, tribal leaders, and also members of the Afghan government. Congressman Thornberry, thank you so much for being on with me today. I want to talk to you first about the troops and the tribal leaders, folks you talked to there, but we have you on because the president is speaking tonight, as we mentioned, outlining his plan on troop withdrawal. From everything I've read, sir, you agree with Secretary of Defense Robert Gates that there's too much talk about leaving and not enough talk about getting the job right. Sir, how do we get the job right?
Well, it's give the troops a chance to do their job. I mean, I admire the president's decision to send in the 30,000 troops, and it's made a tremendous difference. As you mentioned, I've walked around villages in Afghanistan within the past few weeks that I could never have walked around just a year ago. But anytime you start setting deadlines, telling the enemy and your friends when you're going to leave, it undermines your effectiveness. And so I worry about this national security decisions by the calendar and making it harder to achieve ultimate success.
You have the mission in Afghanistan. You also, though, have the economic mission here back at home. In terms of dollars and cents, the U.S. has spent $1.3 trillion in these two wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, in the last decade. Here at home, you know the unemployment rate, 9.1%. What do you say to an unemployed American who says to you, sir, please stop building, bridges and buildings in Kandahar and build them back home in Clarendon, Texas?
Yeah, I tell them that the first job of the federal government is to defend the country, and we can never again let Afghanistan be a sanctuary for terrorists to use to attack us. And that we have to work with the population so that they can stand on their own 2 feet and provide for their own security, just like is happening right now in Iraq, where all of our troops are scheduled to be gone by the end of the year. We need to give the Afghanistanis that same opportunity, and if we do, then they can provide for their own security, and we can come home successful rather than come home in some sort of compromised position.
So just so I'm hearing you right, priority number 1 is defending our country in Afghanistan. Priority 2 is our own Americans and jobs.
Well, one for the federal government is to defend the country. It's not going to be the federal government that creates jobs. It's the private sector. We've learned from the mistakes of the stimulus type approach of the federal government going out and creating jobs. The federal government needs to get out of the way of business to create jobs here at home, and that's how that guy in Clarendon, Texas is going to get a job, not from the federal government.
As we mentioned, Congressman, you were in Afghanistan. You were there in April. You were there as recent as Memorial Day. You described the trip as inspiring, meeting these American troops. But how do the troops themselves, these men and women, how do they feel about the mission? And how worried are they that politics might be getting in the way here?
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. When you kind of get these guys aside without all the generals around, talk to them about what they're worried about. It is that their effectiveness will be undercut by Washington politics. And they'll tell you with a tear in their eye about a friend they've lost, and they don't want that loss to be for nothing. They want that sacrifice to be lasting. And the thing they worry about most is politics in Washington cutting the legs out from under what they've accomplished.
Congressman Thornberry, my final question is this. Will there ever be a time when there are no American boots on the ground in Afghanistan?
I can't tell you ever. It depends on the circumstances there. As long as we have a government whose primary function is to defend us, then our government and our military must take whatever actions are needed to defend us. I hope, though, that we can learn from the success in Iraq so that one day the Afghanistan people can provide for their own security in the way that the Iraqis are providing for their own security, and that all our troops can come home in the way that they're going to come home from Iraq by the end of this year.
1,000 troops will be out of there by the end of 2012. That is what the president is supposed to announce tonight. Congressman Thornberry, Thornberry out of Texas.